Namaskar, hello and welcome viewers. You're watching the special presentation of Sansad TV on Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, Bharat Ek Soch. And today we'll talk about global Indians and Indian diaspora. Indian diaspora is the largest diaspora in the world. It is counted among the most successful expat communities anywhere in the world. Today, the Indian diaspora occupies high positions in the fields of politics, economy, industry, technology and education. The success stories of our diaspora are countless. Global Indians have seamlessly integrated with the countries of their adoption. They have also maintained very close links with their ethno-cultural roots in India. The top countries with Indian diaspora population include UAE, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Malaysia, Singapore, United Kingdom, Ireland, Mauritius, US and South Africa. And to analyze the contribution of Indian diaspora and how it's making its mark, I'm joined by an illustrious panel of guests. Joining us through virtual platform, Dr. J.S. Bhamra, National Chairman, British Association of Physicians of Indian Origin. He's a senior consultant and in Manchester and is also an honorary reader at University of Manchester. Also joining us, Dr. Amitabh Ghosh, Mars scientist, NASA. He's the only Asian in the Pathfinder mission by NASA. He has been honored with NASA Mars Pathfinder Achievement Award in the year 1997 and the NASA Mars Exploration Rover Achievement Award in 2004. Also joining us through virtual platform, Mr. Himanshu Gulati, MP, Progress Party, Norway. He's a member of parliament from Norway representing the Progress Party. He became the youngest state secretary in the Norwegian parliament at the age of 25 in 2013 and served as a deputy minister of justice. I welcome all of you on Sansad TV and thank you so much for joining us.
For having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
Mr. Gulati, let me begin the program with you. Many people of Indian origin hold top political positions. For instance, the US Vice President. You are also an example. Tell us about your opening thoughts on Indian diaspora and their political clout.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation to be part of this very interesting discussion. And I think what it shows is that people of Indian origin, no matter where they live in the world, are genuinely concerned about the societies they live in, and they want to help form those societies in a better way. And our roots, our values, our upbringing, I think, teach us that our one should be a positive change in one's local community, in one's local country. And as you mentioned, it's a matter of pride for all people of Indian origin that the US Vice President has Indian origin. And now that the British the Conservative Party is about to choose their next leader and the next prime minister, we also see several people of Indian origin in the race. So I think we will see even more people in the future joining politics and holding top positions in their respective countries. And that's something we should be proud of. And this is also a force that we should use for positive impact all over the world.
Absolutely, that's a huge positive impact of Indian diaspora. But Dr. Bhamra, doctors of Indian origin are almost a brand. Now these doctors, these technical people and otherwise engineers are also influencing the policy decisions in the foreign country that they're living in. Tell me, how do you analyze their importance?
So, I'm actually of East African origin, but I studied medicine in Patiala Medical College in India, and then came to the UK to serve in the NHS. The NHS, the National Health Service in UK, would not have been formed without the contribution of doctors from the Indian subcontinent. There are about 275,000 doctors here registered with the General Medical Council, of whom about 20 to 25% are actually from Indian origin. So that's a substantial contribution that we make. And the unique thing about Indian doctors, I think, is that they have a love for both countries. So we have a love for UK. We contribute hugely to the National Health Service here. But at the same time, we have great links with India as well.
Great links with India as well. And Dr. Ghosh, how do you analyze the contribution of the Indian diaspora, given the sense that we're talking about the political clout, the economic contribution, and how they're influencing the policy decisions?
Okay, so I really like your question. I was about to make a point. See, I think you started off by saying, and there's this perception that because, Sundar Pichai and Satya Nadella, they are in these powerful positions, and these Kamala Harris. Uh, then therefore it sticks a message that the Indian diaspora is somehow doing very well. Actually, the message is very deep. So, the first time I went to India for this diaspora event was the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. And I realized that, you have Indians living in many, many, many countries. And I think what sets them apart and lets them succeed is, I think, every person who goes abroad, and almost every person who goes abroad, works very hard for multiple generations and builds up this success. And so you have people who have gone to Kenya, and you have people who have come to the US. They have worked hard, and they are in this position because of this huge hard work. The isolated technology leaders that you see, there are much an isolated example, but globally, if you think, Indians are there in many, many places. They have very deep roots. And again,
Yes.
You cannot brand Indian diaspora in one bottle, kind of.
True.
So, for example, in my Washington area, I have people who have come in the 80s, and they still have Raj Kapoor posters on their walls.
Wow.
And they still listen to Raj Kapoor songs. And then I have my children, they're in high school, and there is a Nach ball of, where they're playing this latest Indian music from this Alia Bhatt movies, and which is everything within the last 2 years. And I don't know how they find out. Maybe it's through social media. So everybody relates to India in very, very different ways. So, and then, I remember talking to the delegation from Suriname in the Pravasi Bharatiya Divas. Very, very different people. And, they have been in Suriname for many, many years. I think the president of Suriname was at that time from an Indian origin person. So it's a beautiful story, and it's a story of hard work.
Yes.
That's what got them wherever they are. From Gujarati families who set up motels, and from Punjabi families who set up, truck stop hotels. It's really a very wonderful, motivating story.
Absolutely. It's a very
Preeti, if I might
inspiring
add a bit
story.
on that, if I might add a bit of that,
Please go
on
ahead.
that
The
as
floor
well.
is yours. Please go ahead.
Yes, because it is first of all a matter of inspiration to see that no matter where you are in the world, no matter what your origin is, as long as you work hard with dedication, you can achieve anything, and that's a message of inspiration, I think. And although often we mention people in high positions when we show the success of Indian diaspora, this applies as much to all Indians out there, whether it's people, as mentioned earlier, running motels, running restaurants, running businesses. It shows the hardworking mentality and the philosophy and why people of Indian origin have made success. And I would very much support the point that Mr. Amitava Ghosh made. The reason all these people we are mentioning are successful is not because they're Indian or they're geniuses. No, it's because they go into their respective fields and excel and dedicate years and decades before reaching the top. I mean, you do not become the chief of Microsoft or Google without having been in there for many years, decades, and excelled and competed and beat all the others. So I think that's also it sort of shows the way that Indians operate, perhaps a little bit isolated. That in your field you are very dedicated, you work hard, and as a result of that, you are also often then given these high the reward of that. And one last thing I would mention
Yes.
is. I'm very fortunate to be the son of two people from Delhi, India, and in my country, although I'm in politics and parliament, I've been a deputy minister. It also having that Indian origin also gives a lot of perspective. I live in a country of 5.5 million people. Every time I go to India, I realize that's hardly not even half of Mumbai or Delhi. So the perspectives we carry from India, the world's biggest democracy, one of the most populated countries, so many
Yes.
challenges, also gives important insight into how we try to solve the challenges in our respective societies.
Absolutely. And I can see
You know,
Dr. Bamra
may I
is
just-
nodding vociferously.
yes.
Dr. Bamra, as we were
Well,
talking about
can
the
I just
success
make
stories.
one little point?
Yes, sir.
Well, I was going to deviate slightly from my learned colleagues to say there might be something in our Indian blood. I don't know. I'd like to think that, because wherever we go, we adapt to the local country, whether in UK, Canada, Australia, USA, Norway, wherever we go. But we also retain our roots. So in the UK, for instance, BAPIO, which is the largest Indian medical organization, founded by my colleague and my good friend Ramesh Mehta, we also promote the values of yoga, the values of classical dancing, Bharatanatyam or Kathak, or all of these things we ingrain within our children who otherwise would not be exposed sometimes to the Indian culture so well, is to say this is what Indianness is about. It's about tolerance. But of course, what Himanshu and Amitabh are saying is true. We have to work hard, often work harder than the local people in order to establish ourselves. We have to break down a lot of barriers, which over the decades, over the generations, we've been able to do. And I think that is what unites us. And of course, we have that unity across, certainly amongst doctors. We have a unity across all the diaspora in every country. We have an umbrella organization called GAPIO, Global Association of Physicians of Indian Origin, which unites all the 1.2, 1.4 Indian doctors of that origin. So, yes, I mean, I think we've got that grit and determination, but we have that tolerance. We have a background that supports us in what we do. And of course, we have the family unit. It may not be as good as it used to be in Raj Kapoor's times, Amitabh, but we have that family unit, that community spirit that lets us go. And of course, I love Rafi as much as I love Arijit Singh, as much as I love Ed Sheeran. So we have transcended many cultures.
All right, so 3 key words: grit, determination, and perspiration. But also, Dr. Bamra, you mentioned a very important thing about yoga, about our culture, about our tradition. Dr. Ghosh, so Indian diaspora is acting both as the agent and the instrument of India's soft power. Would you agree?
Well, I think I wouldn't entirely agree. See, I think there are some people in the diaspora who choose to be agents of this soft power, but it is very, very varied. And it is unimaginably, so if you really go to one of these Pravasi Bharatiya Divas meetings, you will see that it's very varied. It is not, see, soft power is a very loose and not defined term. But for example, in the Washington area, there are some Indians who do not show up for the community functions like Durga Puja and Diwali. Doesn't mean that at home they're any less Indian. They will still advocate Bharatanatyam. They'll still tell their children that please work hard. So this is one of the things, you heard the word tiger mom. So, in the US, Indian parents and Chinese parents are the same way. So they will come home and tell their children that, well, you got 89 in mathematics. Well, that's really bad because you should be getting 95. So that desire for excellence is kind of that's what sets them apart. That we grow up just as in India, we grow up believing that you have to be your best, try your best. Even there, I think you are told that you have to excel. And coming back again to your point,
Yes.
if you go to, say, Arizona, and you meet a guy who has just flown in from Gujarat, and he's driving his uncle's shuttle in a motel. Well, he's really working hard. He has no time for doing anything else than his job.
True.
But that is the real grit, because in 10 years, he will have 3 motels, and he would have made a life for himself in America. So it's really what you don't see in the background is a bunch of people, like the initial people, the Gujarati who set up motels. They stayed there, they cleaned the motel, they ran the motel, and so they really had no time for any external activity, social politics, anything. So yes.
All right, point well taken. But talking about the challenges as well, Mr. Gulati, the government we know has several schemes for the welfare of Indian diaspora. You talked about Pravasi Bharati Divas as well. But since we are talking about their contribution to their homeland, what do you think? What are the challenges and what are the challenges that need to be fixed urgently?
Well, India is being such a big country with such a huge population. Number of challenges are only limited to fantasy. But what I feel that from my position, the way I would like to contribute is that when I see in my country solutions, best practices, new technology, innovations that I think can make a difference in India, I try to connect those communities or those businesses or those scientists with the appropriate people in India, whether it's states or companies over there. So I think that having that Indian cultural background and heritage, we very much have a foot and at least part of our hearts in India. So in addition to doing the work we do in the countries we live and where we serve in various positions, it's always in the back of the mind, at least for me and I believe for very many of my colleagues, that how can we also contribute when we see something that can make a difference, a positive impact in India as well.
Absolutely, sir. But Dr. Bhamra, since we're talking about the challenges, COVID-19 pandemic has also triggered anti-globalization wave. Would you agree? And if yes, then what are the challenges for the Indian diaspora?
It's done a bit of both, and I was going to mention COVID. Thank you for mentioning COVID, because COVID has brought the best and the worst out of mankind, as well as the global challenges. What has happened is that people are now very aware that we're so interconnected. You can't deal with a pandemic in one part of the country and not deal with the other. So we've seen a huge amount of collaboration. It came a bit late, partly because WHO were late to wake up to this. But when it came, there's been a whole lot of spirit of that cooperation that there has been, even with vaccines. And it could be better because parts of Africa have not had the vaccine. But even with the vaccine, India's done extremely well. Many parts of the world have done extremely well. There's been a global cooperation in terms of the vaccine. I mean, we know that this virus is so virulent that if one part of the world gets affected, every part of the world could get affected by this. And we don't want another 2-year lockdown away from our good friends and family. But again, it's brought something that has been a challenge. The whole issue of tackling the virus at the beginning has not been done very properly. There was a fight for the best PPE, the best vaccines, and all of that stuff. So I think we could do better with that, and I think we will, because of that spirit of cooperation. It's certainly brought many communities together.
All right, Dr. Ghosh, before I take... yes, please go ahead.
Yes, so I had a quick point. So, this COVID situation is really bad. I understand. But, this is, I think, a temporary blip in the history of the world. So you will have a medicine like remdesivir, and there's an antiviral. So 5 years from now, I think we will be back to where we were, and we will have a vaccine, and then we'll have a medicine if we got infected. The other question of how is the diaspora contributing to India and Indian development? So that's a very difficult question. So, there are many people with many different ideas who come from abroad, and certain things which work in one country do not necessarily put to another country. So I'll give you an example. Ford and I think GM just left India after maybe 10 or 20 years. They couldn't make it happen here. So there are a lot of foreign companies come here. And this is the same. So they also came with an idea of making change here, but they could not because it kind of doesn't work. So I think it's a very complex economy. And I'm giving you a very simple fact that maybe 90% of India earns less than 15,000 rupees a month or 20,000 rupees. So a major part for them, it's not like the developed world. So change has to come in a very different way. So having said that, there has been huge change. so I went to a very remote part of India, Havelock Island, Andamans. Even there, the villagers, every villager and every child, even they were like in the fields looking after cattle. They had cell phones. So
Right.
that's been incredible change. But I think it is difficult, and it requires a lot of intelligence to come up with a constructive model which works and an economic model which works. So that is the holy grail. It's not the ideas. Many people have good ideas, but to have an idea which works for India, that is the real challenge.
Absolutely. And before I wrap up the show, let me also take closing remarks from all my guests. Mr. Gulati, way ahead for Indian diaspora diplomacy.
Yes, I think we've only started seeing the beginning of the major influence of Indian origin people in other parts of the world. I think that what we will see is this influence and the number of people in key positions increase tremendously, because there's a lot of talent, a lot of hardworking people. So I think what we are seeing now is something we're going to see increase. And earlier people were talking about soft power. And this diaspora is, in fact, the main element of this soft power, which India should also take advantage of diplomatically, because it gives India an asset and a chance to bridge differences and create ties, whether it's cultural, economic, trade-wise, with literally every corner of the world. Again, thank you for having me, and it's great to be able to discuss this very interesting subject.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gulati. And as you said, that this is just the beginning. Dr. Bamra, this is just the beginning of Indian diaspora's prowess?
Well, I think absolutely, I can't disagree at all with what Himanshu said. But I'll tell you what, I think what we've known, COVID and the effects of COVID are going to last for a very long time. What we've learned globally is that collaboration and cooperation, that's the only way to fight world disease. There are great challenges ahead of India, as well as every country in the world. Climate change is going to be a huge challenge. Our children, our grandchildren are going to suffer unless we tackle them. Workforce, medical workforce especially. We are short of doctors and nurses in India, but we're short of doctors and nurses everywhere in the world. We have to make sure that any migration, medical migration, is ethical. Pandemics will come and go. The coronavirus has been around for 100 years or more, and we will have another pandemic coming around. We have to be more savvy. We have to be more careful. We have to have better vaccinations, better medications, like Amitabh was saying, in order to deal with the acuteness of these illnesses. And of course, one thing we haven't mentioned, where India is doing so well, and I feel so proud, is digitalization.
Yes.
I go to India very often. I was there in March and April this year. And I marvel at how taxis have Wi-Fi, some buses have Wi-Fi. Even UK has a digitalized. I've been to hospitals where it's digitalized much more than UK is. At minimum cost, we have a scheme from PGI called CBIOD, set up by the Health Minister in India. And it's great what it's able to do by remote consultation, reach out to rural communities. So digitalization, here we come from India.
Absolutely. And I'm completely out of time. Dr. Ghosh, your closing comments.
My closing comments is the relationship between the diaspora and the Indian population is one of love and respect. So there is respect from both sides. And it's a very tender feeling of appreciation for both sides. And so it is absolutely fantastic that this sort of respect is on both sides and the feeling of love. And this is just the beginning. I'm surprised that even the newer generation has this same connection, both in India and abroad. And the governments everywhere in India, the state government, the central government, everyone has been very hospitable to the diaspora. And so I think this relationship can only get better with time.
Absolutely. And as you said, that this relationship is of love and respect. And of course, we are proud of Indian diaspora. On that note, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Bamra, Dr. Ghosh, and Mr. Gulati. Well, viewers, that's all we had for you in this edition. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Sunset TV. Namaskar.